a question you want to write for a candidate, please raise your hand. We have people in the audience with cards and pens, so just raise your hand. Wait 1 more minute.
Wonderful. Thank you. It comes naturally.
I find it hard to believe that people can't hear me. I'm a teacher. Retired. Okay. Welcome to the League of Women Voters and the DuPage NAACP Candidates Forum for the offices of King County Board Districts, King County Treasurer, and King County Sheriff. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am the Voter Service Chair for the League of Women Voters of Central King County. The candidates for the office of King County Clerk were also invited, but did not respond to the invitation. It should be noted that the League of Women Voters has an empty chair policy, which prohibits forums with only one candidate for a position participating. We have offered the candidates who responded affirmatively to the invitation an opportunity to make a 2-minute statement on their platform for candidacy. We have an additional forum that was already scheduled for October 4th at the Geneva Library. Invitees for that forum include candidates for Illinois House 65, Illinois Supreme Court District 2, and the 11th Congressional District. We are awaiting confirmation of candidate attendance at this time. I would ask that Mike Burton, who is the chair of the, I'm throwing my glasses on, chair of the Criminal Justice Committee for the DuPage NAACP, to come up and say a few words. Mr. Burton. And be careful of the microphone.
Thanks, Patty. My name is Michael Burton. I am chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee Board. I'm Michael Burton. I'm chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee for the NAACP DuPage chapter. We also serve King County. We've been around since 1956. We're grateful to partner with the League of Women Voters for this event. It's very important that the community sees and takes part of events like this. And being informed about candidates and the political process is one of the most important responsibilities that any citizen can perform. On behalf of the NAACP DuPage chapter and our president, Michael Childress, thank you to everyone who's here, and we're looking forward to learning more about the candidates. Thank you.
Now I would like to introduce Barb Mymans from the Wheaton League, who will be our moderator.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Barb Linens, and will be serving as the moderator tonight. I'm a member of the Wheaton League of Women Voters and live in West Chicago. Therefore, I'm not eligible to vote for any of the candidates participating in tonight's forum. As Patty said, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not endorse candidates. Throughout its history, the League of Women Voters has been providing opportunities for candidates seeking public office to speak directly to the voters through forums. It continues to be the policy of the League to hold forums for those candidates in contested races. Therefore, all candidates from Districts 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 for the Kane County Board were invited and are in attendance tonight. Unfortunately, the opposition candidates from County Board Districts 15 and 18 were not able to attend, so Mr. Scott Johansson from District 15 will be allowed to make a 2-minute statement, followed by Mr. Rick Williams from District 18, who will also be allowed to make a 2-minute statement at the conclusion of the forum for candidates in County Board Districts 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So let's begin by reviewing some of the league ground rules for candidate forums. All candidates attending tonight have signed and returned the ground rules by the deadline established in the invitation. These rules specify the format, time limits, broadcasting of the forum, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum. I will be responsible for enforcing those rules. And like Patty, I'm a former school teacher, so I do give detention. The forum for today is a candidate forum and not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by candidates. It is the responsibility of the public, news media, opposing candidates, etc. to fact-check statements made by the candidates if necessary. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order by district, but with their 1-minute opening statements, they will alternate the order in which they answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give a 1-minute closing statement. The questions have been gathered in advance from the public and tonight from those attending. A panel of experienced members of the League of Women Voters has reviewed the questions submitted and carefully screened questions for appropriateness for the office and to avoid duplication for tonight's event. And last but not least, I do want to thank all the candidates and say how grateful we are that you are not only willing to serve in office, but you've agreed to be here tonight. So let us begin with opening statements. We'll begin with County Board District 10, candidate Dave Brown. You have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Should I get a microphone? Thank you. I hope this doesn't count for my time. Time's up.
It's a test.
Okay, does it work? Yeah. There we go. Okay.
Can you hear me in back? Okay. Speak up.
All right, good evening. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight. My name is David Brown, and I am running for county board position because I believe the citizens of Batavia and North Aurora should be represented by someone who is passionate about their community and has experience in government budgeting and policy.
Closer.
For the last 2 years, I have had the opportunity to represent the residents of District 10 on the county board, as well as serving as the Forest Preserve Commissioner. I am currently serving on 8 county board committees, including County Development and Judicial Public Safety. Recently, I have been working directly with the chairman and the consultants of the American Rescue Plan Committee for evaluation and distribution of funds for mental health agencies, shelters, and local food pantries. I am goal-oriented, budget-minded, proactive, and resourceful. As your county representative, I have and will continue to work together with other board members on the board to balance the budget while maintaining one of the lowest tax rates possible. Thank you for your interest tonight.
Thank you. Next candidate will be from District 10 will be candidate William Tarver. You have 1 minute.
Good evening. My name is William Tarver and I'm running for Kane County Board 10th District. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. 17 years ago, we chose to move to Batavia and make Kane County our home. My wife and I are both products of union households and are active union members because we know that unions advance service to community, equity, and fairness while elevating standards of living. Together with our twin boys, who are high school seniors and Eagle Scouts, we volunteer at local nonprofits and other organizations focused on serving youth and supporting mental health. At the age of 45, I decided to make a career change so I could be a stronger advocate in our community. I went back to school and earned an associate's, a bachelor's, and ultimately a master's in social work. As a school social worker, I facilitate restorative practices to build relationships and foster community with the goal of avoiding suspensions and expulsions. The skill sets that I have sharpened through education and experience will help me represent well the 10th District on the Kane County Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be candidate Brian Jones from District 11.
I'm Brian Jones. I was born and raised here in Geneva. I was a GHS class of 96 graduate, and I've lived here for 35 of my 44 years. I'm married to my wife Nicole, and we have 2 young children, both who attend Geneva Middle Schools. I'm an attorney practicing in the area of estate planning, estate administration, and tax law. Since 2010, I've volunteered my time and served as the Chicago director for the Wills for Heroes Foundation. It's a not-for-profit preparing free wills and estate plans for our first responders. Recently, I served as a commissioner for the Geneva Police and Fire Board. It always sounds more exciting to run to unseat an ineffective incumbent, but I think John Martin and his predecessor Mike Donahue have done an excellent job for District 11, and I would look to continuity to continue the management of District 11 and the effective stewardship of our tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from an opening statement from District 11 candidate Leslie Judy.
I thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and for everyone who took time out of their schedule to learn about the local candidates. My name is Leslie Judy, and I'm running for County Board in District 11. I've lived in Kane County for 26 years and have been a church school
Closer, Leslie. Sorry.
and a church school and community volunteer for 24. Last year, I completed my 12th year as an elected member of the Geneva School Board. I gained valuable experience in board governance, budgeting and finance, short and long-term planning, committee work, policy, and community outreach. Additionally, I served 6 years on the Geneva Strategic Plan Advisory Committee, and currently I am a member of the Kane County Health Department's Work Group for Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity in the Children's Mental Health Grant, and a trustee on the Kane County Regional Board of School Trustees. I'm dedicated, hardworking, and proud of the community in which I live, and I wish to continue my tradition of public service.
Thank you. The next candidate will be Steve Brieswitz, candidate for County Board District 12.
Thank you, and thanks to the League, and the pronunciation was correct on my name. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming here tonight and giving us all the opportunity to share our thoughts and hopes for the county. I'm a 40-year resident of St. Charles. I moved there 40 years ago for a job. I raised 2 children. They attended St. Charles High School. I now have 4 grandchildren, 2 of them college-bound or college-attending, and I've been a long-time volunteer for many groups like Lazarus Homeless Shelter, where I've built dozens and dozens of bunk beds and other side projects. I've been a St. Charles Township chairperson for the Democrats, so I've had a lot of working with loosely based organizations. And I've also been involved with a peace group up in Elgin called Fox Valley Citizens for Peace and Justice. I've been a treasurer there for almost 20 years. And I just think we need some change in Kane County, and I hope to continue this thought. Thank you.
Thank you. This candidate will be candidate Bill Roth, also for District 12.
Thank you. My name is Bill Roth, and I want to thank the Leagues of Women Voters for putting this on tonight, and everyone who is here tonight. I am an IT professional and small business owner. I've lived in St. Charles since 1995. I've been very active in both my church, which is St. John Newman, and the Knights of Columbus. I'm on the board of Air Classics Museum, which is an aviation museum out at Aurora Airport. We're a small organization, nonprofit, 100% volunteer run. And I'm also on the board of Fox Valley Court Watch, which is a domestic violence monitoring of the court system. I decided I was going to raise my level of involvement. I'm the type, if you talk about an issue, you got to do something about it, and that's why I'm stepping up to run for county board.
Thank you. And now the candidates for District 13. The first candidate will be candidate Mike Linder.
Yes.
Hey, my name is Michael Linder, and I am running for county board in District 13. I'm a lifelong resident of St. Charles, with a little bit of time out over here in Geneva, but basically in St. Charles since I was born. I think Kane County is a wonderful place to raise a family, to go to school, to work, and to live. And I want to keep it that way. I'm very passionate about protecting our open spaces, especially those open spaces that border the Fox River. And I'm also hopeful that we can work with municipalities and the other government agencies as well as civic organizations to bring in development that will increase jobs and increase tax dollars and maybe discourage some development that will create problems for us like too much truck traffic and that sort of thing. It's my hope that the county will be able to increase our focus on mental health. I support Sheriff Hayne and State's Attorney Mazur and their programs of restorative justice. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. And now candidate Todd Wallace, also running for District 13.
Thank you. My name is Todd Wallace. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters in DuPage County and NAACP for hosting this event. I'm sorry. I've lived in St. Charles for 33 years, 1993 graduate of St. Charles High School, attended U of I and Chicago Kent College of Law. I've practiced as an attorney for the last 19 years in real estate. Live in St. Charles with my wife Jennifer and our 10 children, and have been a lifelong member of Chapel Street Church. I served St. Charles on the Plan Commission as its chairman for many years. I also served St. Charles Township as trustee. Last summer I was appointed to County Board District 13, and a little bit about my views. I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe in financial responsibility and transparency. I think the most important roles of county government are public safety and infrastructure, protecting the environment, and enhancing public health. I'm available to all my constituents. I publish my phone number, and I hope to get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And now moving on to District 14, candidate Mark DeVos.
Good evening. Thanks to Patty and Michael and our moderator and to all of you for coming out. I'm Mark Davist. I serve as the representative for District 14 on the county board. I love doing it. I'm up for re-election for the same reason that I ran the first time, which is I think that this is the best value you get for your tax dollar in government service out there. That this is that by the people, for the people, meets you right here. It's your community. We get to act on things that happen right here at home. I'm not looking to go to Springfield or God forbid Washington. I'll stay here because I get to serve you guys on things that matter to us right here at home. I'm a small businessman, so I live in the tight budget world and keep an eye on every dollar and try to make the best use of it. And I treat your dollars the same way that I do ours in business. So, thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, candidate from the 14th District, candidate Tom Hodge.
Hello, my name is Tom Hodge. I'm running for the 14th District of Kane County. I'd like to thank the NAACP and the League of Women Voters for putting this event together. I'm a 25-year business owner. I've been a real estate broker for a very long time as well. And I've always been driven to run. It's been a very long time. I'm running currently to give back to the community, to do my part, and to help to grow the economy in Kane County. I've lived in St. Charles for the past 10 years with my wife Kathy and my 3 teenage sons. And I became interested in government in 1989 when my mom ran for Bartlett City Council and won. It really instilled a sense of responsibility to my community, and I'm still very fond of Bartlett, and in the same way it is with Kane County. We've got so much to offer here in Kane County when it comes to outdoor recreation, when it comes to water sports, biking, hiking, walking, nightlife, many downtown areas, and all of those things help to keep property values up, which is one of my main priorities in our district. Also extending the many bike paths to the western neighborhoods from the river in both St. Charles and Elgin is a priority as well. And I'm confident by...
Thank you very much. And I was just going to give everyone an A for staying with us. Good job. Well, gentlemen, now for your first question. And I realize that should you need me to repeat the question at any time during the evening as the question travels down to you, please just ask and I'd be glad to read the question again. So Mr. Tarver, we're going to start with you. The first question is this. What is your plan to solve the proposed $15 million deficit for fiscal '23? Where would you cut or reduce expenses? Be specific.
Thank you. Is this on now? Yes. Okay. Well, that's a great question, and obviously there's a lot at stake. When you look at the $15 million deficit, there's a lot of things to consider, whether it's raising taxes or cutting expenses. And then you have to take it into consideration how that affects our community. I think as a school social worker, one of the things I like to do is make sure that I talk to the people about what matters most to them. And if you have to raise taxes, you want to get their input. That's number one. Number two, if you have to cut expenses, where do you begin? There's so many great programs in the county. For example, the animal control, veterans assistance, the Kane County Health Department, emergency management, human resources. Where would you begin? Kane County people come here for their business, they come here to live, they come here to play, they come here to enjoy themselves. So you have to really ask yourselves those tough questions as far as what's important and what matters most to the people of Kane County.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, same question.
Thank you. The question is how to overcome the $16.3 million budget shortfall. Where would you cut?
What is your plan to solve the proposed $15 million deficit for fiscal '23? Where would you cut or reduce expenses? Be specific.
So I think as a private business owner, a practicing attorney, I have experience looking at the books and trying to figure out where we can cut the fat in the government. And I don't think that an immediate jump to raising tax levies is the immediate answer. I think that we have budget surplus that we can use to help bridge that gap, at least for 2023. The other thing that I think is important to District 11 in particular is what real estate is our county holding that's unproductive? And one parcel in particular that comes to mind is the 40 acres right next to Settlers Hill. I think we need to come up with some plan to either sell or have that developed, to put that as a productive asset on our real estate and tax rolls. I think that would be a huge help. We're also going to have to increase our staff salaries. That's another thing that's going to have to be looked at. And if taxes need to be examined and adjusted, then that's what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Judy?
So I think one of the most important things to determine is what services are we willing to lose. Do we leave
You have to hold the microphone close to your mouth.
Sorry. Should I just take it to my face?
You better be careful. She's getting that teacher voice going.
I know, I'm very scared. I'm lost now. Do we leave positions unfilled? Do we use some reserves to help fill it? Do we ask our departments to go through their budgets and see if there's places they can tighten up? But I think at the end of the day, you're still going to end up with a deficit, at which point I think you need to go to your voters and ask them, do they want to cut these services or do they want to pay a little bit more in their taxes? But ultimately, I think you turn it back over to the people who are most affected by the shortfall.
Candidate Rieswitz?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of problems with Kane County's budget right now. Some of their employees will actually get a raise because the minimum wage is going up January 1st. They're running understaffed now. It's hard to see a lot of places they can cut. And there's not a lot of room even to raise taxes. One bright spot is the property tax of a $300,000 house. If it went up the full amount it could, 5%, which is less than the rate of inflation for the past year, the raise would only be about $13 for a $300,000 home. So it would not be crushing for most people. It's less than the price of a pizza. And I think we need to be very careful about this, and yes, giving people the option of voting for what to reduce, or perhaps the sales tax, would be a good thing that the board is going to doing.
Thank you. Candidate Roth?
I think
Make sure you hold it in your mouth. too.
that's, thank you. Okay.
Close it.
Testing. I think raising taxes, whether it's property tax or sales tax, should be the last thing we look at. I think we need to look at where we're spending our money and see if we can be more effective, more efficient. You know, how many dollars are we spending on consultant dollars, which are usually twice the price of a salary position. You sometimes need them, but what percent are we using for consultant dollars? And also see where we can cut inefficiencies. Productivity can save you a lot of money, and I think we need to look at that. You know, I've been trained in Six Sigma, and so there's a way to approach that to determine the best way to get the job done.
Thank you. Candidate Linder?
It's a good question, and its problem is a result of the fact that Kane County hasn't actually raised its tax levy in about 10 years, 11 years, something like that. And we've been doing little incremental changes each year. We would be in this spot. We as board members will have the responsibility of seeing that Kane County citizens, residents receive the services that they deserve and that they need. And so cutting is really, there may be some little spots here and there, but for the most part, cutting is not an option. We're going to have to find some alternative sources of revenue. If we find some sources of revenue that are not dependent on property tax, that's wonderful. If we have to ask our citizens to do a small increase in property taxes, we need to do that as well.
Thank you. Candidate Wallace?
I will never vote to increase taxes. And if that is the only solution that we can come up with, then we're not trying hard enough. We need to look for places to cut. We need to look for places to become more efficient. We have asked department heads to take a look at their budgets again to increase their efficiencies, and there are a lot of places where that can be done. One of the things that has not been mentioned yet is that the reason we're in this problem is because of an act that came from Springfield that imposed upon the county a responsibility to raise funds with no way to do that. In the meantime, until that's figured out, the county does have a surplus. We have a surplus that we can utilize until we find solutions within the county. I like some of the ideas that I've heard about taking a look at unproductive property, but I think that there are a lot of efficiencies that we can do at the county.
Candidate Davos?
Thanks, Todd. You covered a lot of the points that's what happens when you follow somebody that's on the board with you already. We do have a gap. It's not the first time that we've faced this problem. We do mandates, service surveys. We look for best practices. We never stop trying to be more efficient and use the dollars wisely, and we won't stop now. Surplusing properties may be part of it. The unfunded mandate that Mr. Wallace refers to has driven the lion's share of this gap. And while we are doing our best to respond to it, and it is important to it, I'm a firm believer in public safety, and that's the single largest part of our budget. The truth is, it's not done being amended, being contested. We will move forward. We will use reserve funds to make sure that we operate with a balanced budget, and we'll see how some of these things sort out and keep looking for all the efficiencies and all the things that we can do to save money or to create new revenue streams. That's how this works. We've done it many times.
Thank you. Candidate Hodge?
Thank you. Yeah, at the end, you get everybody's points. It's pretty good. A lot of the points that you brought up down there about Settlers Hill, this piece of land is sitting there. It's being used to have cross-country meets on it. And from what I understand, it was supposed to have to be used for, biking and maybe they were talking about ATV and off-roading, and it was cut down because of noise. And that is something that I find to be irresponsible. That property is fantastic. If you were to get that property going, there are places in this country that people travel hundreds of miles to get there to just go downhill mountain biking. That kind of thing would boost hotel stays, would boost restaurant usage, would boost everything else that you're going to be purchasing around the area, and that's going to bring in sales tax revenue, and that is how you grow the economy in Kane County. Another point of this is that these guys are right. This budget might not be as large a gap as it's being stated. It's been talked about that there's actually a surplus, and as well, you can go back and I will finish now.
And Candidate Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, and I agree, a lot of it's already been said. There's not much more to say. But I do want to make a point of saying that the county's received about $103 million of American Rescue money, of which we've appropriated $40-some million for county development, for county department usage. A lot of that is going to be to spur economic development in the county and other uses that will help bring the county to where it needs to be today and save us money doing it. Something else that needs to be said is that some of the other departments in the county, such as, say, the sheriff's, where you have an elected official that runs it, or the clerk's office, they can run their office the way they want to. It is now up to the county board to fund their office the way they say it needs to be run. So what's really important here, as has been alluded to, is that we work together as a board with all the elected officials, with all the board members, to do everything we can possibly do to keep the cost down as far as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Candidate Jones. And the question is this: what programs will you work to develop to mitigate climate change? I'll read one more time. What programs will you work to develop to mitigate climate change?
All right. Well, I think climate change is an important issue we need to discuss. Probably the biggest one that comes to mind first would be our transitioning to sustainable energy. Can you hear me? Okay.
Just talk a little louder, straight into the mic.
All right. I don't have a ton to say on this topic, so I'll just start back over. But I think transitioning to sustainable energy would be a good first step towards combating climate change. And I think our trail system, our river corridor in District 11 in particular, and our bike trails, forest preserves, they're of the utmost importance to our residents. And I think it drives tourism also. So I think transitioning to green energy would be a good first start. Earlier today we were talking about the water tables and how important those are, and conservation of water would also be part of the discussion.
Thank you. Candidate Julie is going to hold the mic
I'm
very
going to
close.
hold the mic very closely, and I'm going to speak loudly.
Excellent.
Yes. So, like Brian said, obviously transitioning to sustainable energy, wind power, we have a lot of open spaces, solar power, we could look at geothermal heating on some of our buildings if they're newer buildings. We want to wait 600 years for the payback. But I think we need to be very cognizant about the water. We do have a limited supply of water, and I think that we need to make sure that when we're looking to mitigate our climate change, that we also look at our resources, our natural resources, and make sure that those continue to be preserved, and that we do thoughtful planning to make sure that we're not going to be contributing to more draw on our reserves. I also think we need to look at maybe getting some hybrid vehicles so that we can transition to that in our fleet of vehicles in the county.
Thank you. Candidate Bruzewitz?
Yeah, one thing I've been talking a lot to people about is how we can make Kane County greener. I'd like to see the transportation department focus a little more on the bus service in Kane County, which is just abysmal. If you've ever had to use it, it's awkward. If you want to take a bus, you better know the day ahead of time, or you're going to expect a 4-hour wait. If we put people in buses instead of cars, we can save a lot of energy, save on congestion, save on pollution. We should also expand our bike trails so that people who are using, you see a lot of these electric assist bikes and scooters and all that kind of thing, if they could actually get to somewhere they wanted to go instead of just up and down the river, it'd be a big plus of saving energy.
Thank you. Candidate Roth.
You know, it's real nice that everyone says go green. Right now, going green is probably one of the most expensive if you rush it. We do need to go green. We need to do it in a smart way. There's multiple ways to get there. You know, a lot of people talk about electric cars. What about natural gas? That's a proven technology that can be done, especially in vehicles that we use at the county. Another approach to going green, article I read a few weeks ago, they're saying we need to plant more trees. That's an easy solution. If we do that, we can get green without breaking the bank.
Thank you. Candidate Linder.
Thank you. The county already has done some work with implementing solar in the judicial center. And I think we need to, as we do, rehabbing or building of any new buildings, that we look at those alternative resources rather than going right to electricity and natural gas. Very often with the solar plans, you end up with a company that's willing to come in and do some of the work for you in terms of, so that they can share the revenue on whatever excess there is and so forth. There's some good ways to do that. Transportation is a big thing. Look at all the cars that are parked at the train stations every day. And if we could get a third of those people to arrive on a bus that was electric or driven by biodiesel or anything else, we would certainly save a lot of gas, a lot of pollution, and a lot of money for our residents.
Candidate Wallace.
Thank you. I've long been a proponent of the environment. My undergraduate was in environmental economics, and I have an environmental law certificate, and I practice in real estate. One of the first things that I requested when I started on the county board was to be placed on the environmental.
One step right directly into the mic.
Sorry, Energy and Environmental Committee, which I currently serve on. I think that the county can do a lot of things as far as encouraging and placing policy. I think ultimately it's on the free market to take steps that are going to be that are going to be better for the environment. So as much as we can focus on making our fleet green and things like that, really we need to do what we're good at, which is preserving our natural resources and giving the people the freedom to be able to make change.
Candidate DeVos.
The good news is that King County has been, as it is quite often, a leader in this area. I'm not sure I can list all the different things we do in a minute, but our transportation and development departments have operated with what used to be 2020 and 2030, 2040, 2050 plans, always with a look to efficiencies that are energy efficiencies that are green in nature. Looking for LEED certifications on buildings. Alternative energy, it's been mentioned, the solar panel array at the Judicial Center campus. On the forest preserve side, preserving open space. I mean, when you get elected to the county board, you get a second hat. And the Downstate Forest Preserve Act allows us to have up to 50,000 acres. We're only about halfway there. You know, thanks to referendums and the vote of people supporting that effort, we've gotten to that halfway point, and we'll keep going. These are all things that we're currently doing.
Candidate Hodge.
Again, yeah, so, you know, these solar panel companies that are out there, they provide all of the material for free. Let's say you want to put in some massive kilowatt solar panel array. These companies put the stuff in for free. You basically lease it from them at a set price, monthly. It doesn't change for 20 years. And if that is something that, you know, wants to be done, it can be done. It can be done commercially. It's done for residential properties all the time now. Another uses you can do, you're talking about construction and new construction, you can put on like living roofs like they have in the city that get rid of the heat. They get rid of the heat island. And when you cut back on heat, you're cutting back on the need to cool. And when you cut back on the need to cool, you are cutting back on energy usage. So that's a few things.
Thank you. Candidate Brown.
Thank you. Again, a lot's been said, but let me refer back to the Forest Preserve. We do wear that hat, and we do have currently something over 22,000 acres now that is in the Forest Preserve District. That is all open space. It's all there for public use. So that is one area that we can make sure that we maintain the green. Another one is, let's not forget that we are an agricultural county. About 45% of this county is in farmland. We need to be very careful what we do with that farmland. We recently at a county development meeting had a proposal for a solar farm to go out in the area of Elburn. I won't name the corner. But one of the things that I brought up at that time was, do we have a way to evaluate the farmland that development, whether it's houses or solar farms, are going on, to determine whether or not we should be looking at what's the quality of this farmland? Should we be using up the best farmland in the country to put a solar farm on? Or should we use that information that I'm asking for to determine maybe that's not such a good idea? And I'm out of time.
Thank you. Candidate Tarver.
Well, I'll have to be honest, this is something I probably don't have a lot of information or knowledge with, but I will share that I am a process-minded individual. So a lot of my colleagues up here have talked about some great ideas, and collaborating with them and listening to the professionals would be the thing that I would want to do. I would also want to seek the information from my community to kind of find out any ideas or suggestions that they have, whether that's consulting with the Transportation Department, the Environmental Department, great ideas with the Forest Preserve, but definitely weighing all options first and collaborating with colleagues to make the best decision for the county.
Thank you. The next question will begin with candidate Judy. And the question is this: is the King County Board responsive to the opioid crisis adequate? Is the county assessing the impact of the crisis and using available state and federal funds to address the crisis? Again, I'll read it one more time. Is King County response to the opioid crisis adequate? Is the county assessing the impact of the crisis and using available state and federal funds to address the crisis?
Okay, that's a big question. Anytime you have a death from an opioid overdose, it's one death too many. So I think that you can always do better when you're faced with a crisis. I'm not sure exactly the dollars that are being put into those programs, but I know that in my time on the school board, we had a mantra of we can always do better. And so I think the county can do better.
Thank you. Candidate Frieswitz?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. This is not something I'm focused on, nor do I have a ready answer. But I talked to a woman yesterday who lost her son to fentanyl 2 years ago. My own sister lost daughter-in-law to fentanyl, and as a result ended up being a 60-year-old woman raising a 6-year-old child. It's a terrible thing, and we need to do as much as we can to help. This is part of the mental health crisis. I think that stems from the COVID problem. It affected everybody, and mental health experts around the nation agree that things are in bad shape, and we should do as much as we can.
Candidate Roth?
One death is one too many, so it's never adequate to say we're doing adequate. We need to do better than that. We need to adopt best practices that are used across the country that address the issue. We need to get the deaths down where it's not an epidemic anymore.
Thank you. Candidate Linder?
As everyone has said, one death is one death too many, and we are having continual problems across the nation and certainly across the county and our communities. Our health department was uniquely stressed by COVID. We have not always been able to fully staff our health department because of the amount of turnover we have. Salaries are low. We need to do some things to help there. But the county board has allocated a lot of that rescue plan money to mental health and to the community agencies that deal with those things. And I think that's an important start. There are people in the community who are better suited to help with that. We do need to look at, and I don't know how much we have, but seeing that our first responders have some of the anti-opioid drugs for anti-overdose drugs and so forth available for emergencies. I don't know how much we've done with that, but it's something worth looking at.
Thank you. Candidate Wallace.
I agree with what's been said so far, that obviously this is an issue that, especially over the next 4 years, is going to come to the forefront in this county as we figure out ways to deal with it. I think that one of the great things that King County has going for it is our rich collection of private healthcare providers as well as nonprofit organizations. I think one of the best things that the county can do is to coordinate and utilize those services and try to be the one that takes a leadership role in figuring out how to fight this epidemic.
Thank you. Candidate DeVos.
Going to be a cheerleader for the county tonight, apparently. We have great people in our health department. We have a coroner who was way ahead of the curve on requesting Narcan. We do public outreach in every way we can, and we sought and secured counsel to be part of the opioid settlement. So we'll be in line for that too, so that money can be used to further this whole thought. So again, you've got really great people working for you on the staff at King County, and this is something they're aware of and they are working on. Yes, there's still more to be done, and we're going to stay after it.
Candidate Hodge.
Yes, there has been an opioid crisis in the area for an extremely long time. This is not something that's brand new. I recently lost a friend this last summer who could never get over something that he had a problem with for 25 years. This is with what happened during COVID. People were shut in, people were stuck, and lives changed. But I do agree with a lot of these guys that there's a lot of work being done right now by the health department. It's very, very good. There's money that has been allocated to it. It just needs to become a bigger idea, because this hits everywhere. This doesn't just hit any economic group or any age group. It hits all over the place, and it is a terrifying thing that I talk to my children about all the time.
Thank you. Candidate Brown.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, you must have been in the same meetings I've been at for the last 2 years. But it is a serious problem, and I got to tell you that the one meeting that I enjoy probably the most going to, the committee meeting, is Judicial and Public Safety. But yet at the same time, when we get the reports from the coroner and we look at the deaths that are recorded by the coroner year to year, month to month, and you see that every year, every month over last year, that month last year, we see more suicides and more overdoses every month, every year. It is a serious problem. It is something that our health department and all of our departments are working on. As a board, we all work with them together. We try to get them whatever money we can. A lot of money is coming to them from the ARP funds. And as Mr. Davis mentioned, we did hire a legal firm to go after the settlement, and that's looking very, very favorable. When we get that money is going to go right to the health department and the sheriff's office and such to help enforce it. The other thing we need to look at is the Safety Act that's been mentioned. Doesn't allow incarceration of drug dealers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Candidate Tarver.
We're not doing enough, point blank. I am a mental health professional. I work in schools. I see what's happening. I can tell you from working and volunteering with suicide prevention services in Batavia, they don't have enough resources. We need to get additional funding to those organizations. We need to help the sheriff's office do the work that they do. First responders, they're the people who are responding to these actions, and we need to be more supportive. School health and safety, going back to the schools. I am seeing this within our communities, and the funding needs to take place there. King County is doing some great work, but they need some more support. They have programs like Youth Voices Forum for Mental Health, and they need the additional support that we can provide as a county to reduce suicides in our communities.
And Candidate Jones.
Mental health and the availability of quality mental health services are both of great importance to our county. And to that end, I think one of our candidates had mentioned the county has already distributed around $10 million to the health department and outside agencies in support of mental and community health. Like anything, I think you need to measure the response and then evaluate the effect that you're having. And clearly there's still a problem, so I think that needs to be addressed. I don't have all the answers, but I think we need to evaluate.
Thank you. Our next question will be our last question, so you can all take a deep breath. And we'll start with candidate Breezewitz. What is your top concern facing sorry. I'm so sorry. Though I'm thinking of moving 6 miles west. Okay. What is the top concern for Kane County, and what solution do you propose to solve the issue?
Right now, I'd say the budgeting is the top concern of the county board. Long term, I think our top concern is preserving and protecting the Fox River. I think that's our greatest asset here in Kane County. And I propose, focusing on that and trying to make sure that the waterway stays open and is not turned into a canyon of condos for rich people. Some of this is just we have to focus. It's not just Kane County, it's also the municipalities that have to be aware of protecting our valuable resource, the Fox River.
Thank you. Candidate Roth?
I think it's the budget we need to my top concern. We need to keep it balanced and fiscal responsible to our taxpayers. We need to look at how the county's going to grow. If you look at how fast it's grown over the last 10 years, I think a lot of times we've been in react mode in the planning of how we're doing and growing. And it's going to only grow faster if we don't keep control of it. We are a large percent agriculture. We need to retain that agricultural land that's productive. So I think we need to take our plans and keep them up to date and be open to realities when there's a paradigm shift.
Thank you. Candidate Linder?
The budget, of course, and finding that balance between what it is we can do, what it is we are doing, and what it is we need to do is critical. At this point, go ahead and use the surplus that we have now, but then what do we do next year? We have to be able to plan for that. We have to be looking further out in advance. And again, finding that balance between what it is that we need to be doing for the citizens, the residents of the county, and for the health of the county government, and what it is we can do with the resources we have. And we won't be able to do everything we need to do with the current resources. We just won't have to prioritize some things.
Candidate Wallace?
I think the most important thing for us to focus on is to preserve the identity of Kane County. People move to Kane County, not from Kane County. This is a place where people want to be, and we want to keep it that way. We need to preserve the environmental assets that we have in Kane County, the river, farmland, forest preserves. We need to make sure that we are a safe place to live. And I applaud Sheriff Hayne in doing a great job at that over the last, over his term. And I think that enhancing public health, making sure that mental health is a priority, is one of the best ways to get there. Thank you.
And Candidate DeVos?
We really have to try to avoid following Todd in these things because that was a lot of good points. The identity of Kane County, bucolic Kane County. We're never going to escape the battles of budget, right? It comes every time. But we will keep doing the things that we've been doing, looking forward, being a leader in counties nationwide, having things like a 2050 plan. Google the fabulous Fox waterway. We're on the verge of having it be recognized in the national registry. That's legacy kind of stuff. So we are taking the lead on many of these things, and that should be our priority is to continue to be leaders in all these different facets, in public safety, in public health, in the energy and environmental work that we do, and our partnering with the Forest Preserve. So I think we are on the right track, and those are the priorities we should stick with.
Thank you. Candidate Hodge?
Yes, I too think that, budgets come and budgets go, and those things can be worked out, but we really do need to figure out and get the planning of what the future of the rest of the county is. We have half of the county, I don't know who said it earlier, it was 45% of the county is still farmland, and it's not going to continue to be farmland in 25 years or 30 years. And, I look back now and I can tell you that there are issues with zoning all over the 14th district. There are properties that are still zoned farm that have a 95-foot wide frontage. There's a lot of issues that need to be put together, but planning for the future of the county, developing it, making sure there's water resources available, making sure you have green spaces in the middle, make sure you have traffic set up, roadways that are correct, so that it's just as beautiful as it is now into the future.
Thank you. Candidate Brown?
Preserve what we have and build upon it. We've got a great county, and we can just build upon what we have. Obviously, to get more detail, one of my major concerns is the Safety Act, mental health. Those are things that we're currently working on, and we're going to continue to work on them. Another big issue that we have in the county is equitable pay for our employees. We've got roughly 1,200 employees, and so many of those employees are paid less than any county around us. And so we're going through a study on that right now. We need to figure out how we're going to get them paid so they're paid a fair wage and they're not going to learn from us and then move on to another county for better pay. And that's how we build upon what we have, by maintaining and keeping the employees that we have that are great employees and want to do the very best for the county.
Thank you. Candidate Tarver?
Well, I think we have to start being fiscally responsible. We talk about tonight about the budget, how important it is, and trying to balance that. And when we don't want to raise taxes and we don't want to cut programs here in our county. But when I looked at my tax bill, it was interesting. For my $8,100 tax bill, $5,500 of it goes to the schools. Well, rightfully so, it really should. But interestingly enough, King County is the 6th on the list, and it's $320. Well, how do you spend $320 when you have all these wonderful programs, and how do you afford that? So there's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made, and looking at that is going to have to be one of them. Mental health is really huge, and Mr. Brown mentioned it specifically about our great employees. We hire, we train, we spend all that time and effort, and within 1 or 2 years, they're moving on to another county, and we're back to that same circumstance again. So tough decisions are going to have to be made, and we have to work together to balance the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Tarver. Candidate Tarver. Candidate Jones?
I think the elephant in the room for tonight has been the budget shortfall that we're going to have to deal with. Making those hard decisions and coming to a solution on that, I think, is of the utmost importance. After that, on the long-term planning, I think the county's done a great job with 2040, 2050 plans in all sorts of areas. And I think we need to double down on our county strengths. And specifically in District 11, we are blessed with natural resources, the Fox River, the trail system we have, the business corridors in both Batavia and Geneva. I think we need to add to that draw if we can find something creative with the 40 acres where the old sheriff's site was, and build on to what we have as a base of strong assets that we're privileged to enjoy.
Thank you. And Candidate Judy?
Well, everybody's had some really good things that are their top priority. I believe that we have the adverse effects of the pandemic that have strained our social services. And I'm very concerned that we are able to address the root causes of this need, and that we're able to provide services to ensure and maintain a high quality of life for our residents. It's going to be tough to figure out how to do it with our budget shortfall, but I think that when we have healthy people in our community, we have healthy communities.
Thank you. Thank you all for your thoughtful answers. And now what we'd like to do is begin closing comments. You will each have 1 minute for a closing comment. And we'll start the closing comments with Candidate Ron.
I'm running for county board because I think they can make a difference. I've been very involved in services, volunteering, nonprofits, and I think we're living in a great county. I think we can continue to be a great county. Like I said earlier, if I see a problem, I think you got to do something about it, and I'm stepping forward to help Kane County and District 12.
Thank you. And Candidate Linder, your closing comment.
I think I neglected at the beginning to thank the League and the NAACP for providing us with this opportunity, so thank you. You've heard tonight that we have this huge, grand mix of opportunities and problems ahead of us, and it's really going to take a lot of work to get it done. It means dedicated people who will attend meetings, who will read the materials ahead of meetings, who will consult with their constituents, who will readily answer constituent questions and invite those constituents in to bring their ideas as well. I look forward to working with the board, some great members on the board right now, and I'm really pleased with working with it. I also think we need to be concentrating on people, our employees. While the sheriff, the state's attorney are not exactly employees because they're elected officials, what they have done with restorative justice, reducing crime, and turning around the lives of some people who have been accused of crime in the last couple of years is just amazing. And I think we have to be encouraging all of our people to be that innovative.
Thank you. Candidate Wallace?
Thank you. Thank you again for hosting tonight, and thank you to all the other candidates and everyone here. I believe in Kane County. I think that the people that live in Kane County are the best people in the state. I would never leave. I would never go anywhere else. And I think that there are a lot of challenges that we have as a county, but there are a lot of things that we do right. I think that the characteristics of Kane County that we need to focus on is our humanity, our compassion, and in order to make this a place where people want to live, we need to focus on public safety, maintaining high public safety standards. We need to focus on maintaining our infrastructure. We need to obviously protect our environment, and we need people who are strong and willing to do the work to get there. Thank you.
Candidate DeVos.
I've spent I've split the last about 50 years between living in Batavia and St. Charles here in King County. I remember years ago the 14th district was split almost evenly with Geneva and St. Charles precincts. So I was walking one day and knocking on the door of Geneva and explained to her that when she asked that I lived in Batavia and then St. Charles, and she looked me right in the eye and said, "We almost got it right twice." People are proud to be here. They like being here, and I like being here and helping do the work that the county government does, working so closely with the people in the community. That's why I started, that's why I still do it. We're in a unique position here where we've had a census, and we have redistricting and a new map, and all the board seats are up at once a decade. I think this is a good time to have experience stay on the board and continue to serve.
Candidate Hodge, your closing statement.
I'm running for this board because I wanted to get involved. And you know, living in unincorporated St. Charles, this is the smallest body of government that really works with us. I'm a real estate broker, and I look at the way our homes are really what we are most connected with the county. They have zoning, they have rules, they have all the different things that we want to do with our properties go along with that. It also goes along with the community. The sense of community that I got from my mom and being on the, her being on the board and learning and being around it for so much gave me a very, very strong sense of community. Being here, living in the community. And I live here in the community and will continue to live here in the community, unlike my opponent who lives in Florida.
Candidate Brown.
Having lived in Batavia all my life, I have the appreciation of the district's history. If re-elected, I would continue to have a positive impact on the future. We need an experienced voice who has the vision and understanding of the needs of the community. As your county board member, listening to my constituents is a priority. I will continue to meet with the public officials of North Aurora and Batavia to address my constituents' concerns. We can accomplish more working together. I am retired, and I do have the necessary time and commitment to work with my fellow elected officials and the staff of all the county departments on matters that provide the best quality of life for the county residents. When you go to the polls on November 8th, I hope you will consider voting for me, and I would be honored to be your representative for another 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Turner.
Although being a politician has not been my goal, serving others continues to be a top priority to my family and me. My wife and I chose to live in Kane County and gladly pay our taxes. We want Kane County to be the #1 choice for people to live, to work, to raise their families, and to play. That's why throughout the years, we volunteered at programs aimed at dealing with mental health issues and encouraging our youth. Since we are spending our own hard-earned money, being fiscally responsible and prioritizing spending, as well as keeping our neighborhoods safe, are of utmost importance. I now realize that we need more hardworking folks like us to have a seat at the table and helping to make the decisions that affect us all. So with my family's encouragement, I decided to take this important step of public service. When elected to serve the 10th District on the Kane County Board, I pledge to listen to every citizen and to support plans important to the families who live here. Thank you for helping me in this journey to make a difference.
Thank you. Candidate Jones.
I was approached last year by John Martin, our current county board member, asking me to run as his successor. I'm endorsed by him, a man who served our district in this very position for 8 years and who knows what the job entails and what type of person is the right fit. I'm endorsed by Jeff Schilke, the longtime mayor of Batavia, and I have a strong working relationship with Kevin Burns, the mayor of Geneva. I believe my legal experience and personal background, my local roots and knowledge of our area and culture, and my ability to work with all types of people and personalities make me an excellent candidate for this position. I ask you for your confidence, and I ask you for your vote in November. If you have any follow-up questions, my materials are outside, which includes an email. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Candidate Judy.
I want to make sure the county is deliberate in its use of economic, environmental, and human capital. I want to utilize my experience to make thoughtful decisions that will promote economic growth, protect our natural resources, and provide necessary services to our residents without creating an undue burden on our taxpayers. I want to help the county move from pandemic response to pandemic recovery by supporting funding for critical behavioral health and social services, and by investing in employment assistance, housing opportunities, and food security programs. My commitment to public service, attention to detail, and strong leadership skills will allow me to deliver the highest level of service to the residents of District 11. When you go to the polls, either early voting or on November 8th, please cast your vote for Leslie Juby. Thank you.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we do have 2 candidates here who were unable to participate on the dais.
We have one more.
Oh my God. Back girl, please.
Detention. No problem. I'm Steve Frieswitz. I'm running for Kane County 12, and thank you again for coming here. I chose to live in Kane County 40 years ago, and I've been here ever since. It's a wonderful place to live, and I think we can do better on the county board to make it even improve upon it over time. And we just need to work hard and sacrifice. I know about hard work. I've worked hard all my life. I've mostly been an employee, but I've also been a small business person. My wife's been a small business person. I've got to meet people at Lazarus House Homeless Shelter and see how they live and how they survive in really strenuous conditions considering our high economic levels in Kane County. There's still some people that are really poor. And I've worked in houses of the very, very wealthy. And we need to help raise those at the bottom. And I pledge to do that. I pledge to try and make it Kane County more livable for all our citizens. And I hope you vote for me on November 8th. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I haven't forgotten anybody else, right? As I mentioned earlier, there are two candidates who are here with us tonight who weren't able to sit on the dais because their opposition was unable to attend to the forums. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask candidate Johansson from District 15 to come forward and give a 2-minute statement.
Here's a mic.
You could use, or you could stand here.
Oh, okay. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
My name is Scott Johansson.
Let's take it out. You can hold it closer to you.
How's this? Does this work well?
Yes.
My name is Scott Johansson. I'm in King County District 15, which is largely Campton Hills and Plato. My opponent has refused consistently to engage in any kind of public discussions of any kind. Nobody has got a public statement from him, whether it's written to the papers or in this forum. He's doing this quite intentionally. He appears. This is an important point. I've got a plan here.
Your platform.
Your platform.
It's important to know what I'm running against, so I'm going to stick to my script here. My platform, and please let me do this discussion and not interrupt me. I mean, I support term limits for the King County Board. I've heard up here that there are many people that have been on the board or in elected offices in the area. Whether you mentioned Ken Burns. There are many people that have had elected positions for decades. I don't agree with that. I think there should be term limits. I will oppose tax levies. I don't think that our county is undertaxed. It's overtaxed by a large amount. I'll oppose increasing gas taxes. I support initiatives to return all open spaces to their prairie status. Campton Township is currently allowing some of their employees to farm land, which prevents open space development. I support health care initiatives for women who want to seek medical care in Illinois and in King County. I will advocate for a substantial amount of increased budget scrutiny. I'm a manager. I'm a graduate of Northwestern University with an MBA. I am very good at budget analysis. I created a business that was very successful. I had 3 operations. One was in Beijing, China, 2 were in Illinois. I understand budgeting. I know analysis. I've heard from the people in the King County Board, some of the people, that there is no room for reductions. I don't know whether there is or is not. I've looked at the budgets generally. I find that really hard to believe when I see the size of the budget. I've also heard that the employees of King County are underpaid. I don't know whether that's true or not. I do know this. King County...
I'm going to ask you to bring your remarks to a close as your 2 minutes are up.
DuPage County and Lake County are much larger, and that's part of the problem why people lose employees. King County is losing population, losing it because of taxes.
Thank you so much. Our next candidate, who will have 2 minutes to speak, is candidate Williams from District 18.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Richard Williams, and I am the Republican candidate for the 18th District of the County Board, which covers the Mill Creek subdivision, the villages of Elburn, Lily Lake, Burlington, Virgil, and Maple Park. I have been a resident of Kane County for almost 27 years. My wife Jennifer and I moved to Elburn in 1995, where I started my legal career for an Elburn law firm representing individuals and businesses with their legal needs, as well as municipalities, fire protection districts, school districts, and library districts in Kane County. In 1999, my family and I moved to the Mill Creek subdivision, where we have resided ever since. Both our sons attended and graduated from Geneva Public Schools. In 2007, I founded my law practice in Geneva, and since that time, the practice has grown to a firm of 10 attorneys concentrating in a variety of specialties. I've been involved in many community and civic organizations over the years. I am an elected official of the Kane County Regional Board of School Trustees, the current president of the Between Friends Food Pantry of Sugar Grove, and I'm the past president and former board member of the Mill Creek Water Reclamation District. I believe my professional and civic experience makes me a highly qualified individual to serve the residents of Kane County District 18 as their elected board member, and would be honored to do so. Our nation is facing an economic crisis. Inflation is at a 40-year high, and the increased cost of living is taking a major toll on working families in Kane County. People are feeling the pinch in their pocketbooks. Presently, the Kane County Board is considering a tax increase at a time when county residents are being hit with skyrocketing costs. One county board member has cavalierly characterized the increase as the equivalent of a couple of martinis and a tip. I hear the residents of my district loud and clear that the answer to our budget problems is not to raise taxes, but for the county to live within its means. If elected, I will do my best to keep our taxes and unnecessary spending in check. We're also facing an unprecedented challenge to our criminal justice system. Springfield recently enacted legislation which eliminates cash bail, increases the cost of police departments to operate, and the sheriff's office, makes it more difficult for our judges to keep alleged violent criminals behind.
And again, I'll ask you to bring
I will wrap it up. Sorry. Quality of life is a key aspect of why we live in Kane County, and if elected, I vow to do my best to preserve the rural character of Western Kane County and our quality of life so that we can continue to be proud to call Kane County our home. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming and listening, and please, let's give our candidates a round of applause. Our democracy thrives when we all are engaged in voting and learning about our candidates. Attending or watching a forum such as this is an excellent way to be empowered to join discussions on local issues and make your voice heard on Election Day. We hope each and every one of you will vote and inspire your friends and family and neighbors to do the same. So thank you very much. So we'll take a short break before we begin our next forum. In the meantime, we'd love it if you would all be thinking and writing down questions for the Kane County Treasurer candidates.
Thank you.
minutes to speak since his opponent is not present.
Did you say he would not or could not?
He would not. And the county treasurer candidates have graciously agreed to delay the start of their forum so that Sheriff Hahn can speak and get back to work.
And I know you're from DuPage, so I'm going to help you. Hain for Kane.
Oh,
Hain for Kane. Please excuse my dress, folks. I'm sandwiched in between work and knocking on doors and doing everything else, so this is my balanced outfit to maintain that. So this mission started about 6 years ago. It's my 28th year in law enforcement. That is a big difference. 28th year in law enforcement. And I always wanted to be a Kane County Sheriff's Deputy since I was 4 years old. So 6 years ago I decided to run for sheriff. Took me 2 years on the campaign trail with a very solid plan and platform of what we were going to do when I got into office. We were going to help the marginalized. We were going to cut our jail population by a quarter. We were going to save a heck of a lot of money, and we were going to prove that we can reduce crime by providing people with opportunities once they leave our jail. While we're modernizing our police force. And then boom, 2018 I get elected, and we have to face incredibly unprecedented times. From the pandemic to civil unrest to police reform laws, which I wish we could get into deeper conversation about everything we're going to do regarding the Safety Act and our plan for the years going forward. But because of the passion and what we invested into our correctional center, here's some quick data. We've reduced the opioid overdose deaths of the formerly incarcerated in our jail by 89% over the last 4 years, 89%. We've cut our jail population not just by a quarter, but in half. We've reduced county-wide crime by 16%, and by diverting these people from custody and being fiscally responsible and reinstituting the county's electronic monitoring program that was defunded in 2018, we saved our taxpayers over $5 million. We've also used our budget to supplement other offices' budget, which is not very often seen from an elected official. We gave $1 million back for our FY22 budget back to the county so they could help balance. We shared our funds with the state's attorney's office so they could accomplish goals that they wanted to get done. And because of that fiscal responsibility, when I came into office, I inherited a budget that was $380,000 over. Every single year since then, we've been 6 figures under budget. So folks, going forward past November 8th, I hope you remember Hain for Kane, because we have a long way to go. As one of the only counties in the nation to report a downturn in opioid overdose deaths during a pandemic, and still countywide crime that has to be addressed, and a solid plan, experience, and command staff and leadership, that's what Hain for Kane is all about. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. Let me talk to you for 2 minutes, and please enjoy the next portion of the forum. Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much. Hain for Kane. So now we're going to enter into the portion of our program for the Forum for Kane County Treasurer. If you have questions for the candidates, there are people in the audience walking around the perimeter that would be happy to hand you a card and a pen, and you can submit your questions to our questioners, sorters here. So once again, I just want to review the rules quickly, the league ground rules. All candidates attending tonight have signed and returned the ground rules by the deadline established in the invitation. These rules specify the format, time limits, broadcasting of the forum, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum. I will be responsible for enforcing these rules. The people who are here tonight and watching the video want to know what your platform is and what you plan to do in the upcoming years should you be elected. The format tonight is, as I said, not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by the candidates. It is the responsibility of the public, news media, opposing candidates to fact-check statements made by the candidates if necessary. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order. With their 1-minute opening statements, they will alternate the order in which they answer questions for 1 minute, and after the question portion of the forum, each candidate will be given a 1-minute closing statement. The questions have been gathered in advance and from the public attending. A panel of experienced members of the League of Women Voters are screening the questions for appropriateness for the office and to avoid duplications. And finally, I'd like to thank both of you for your patience tonight and for your willingness to be so adaptable as we adjust our program. So let us begin. Candidate Lausen, would you like to give your opening statement?
Thank you. Testing. Good, testing. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity. First of all, to express my love and appreciation for my wife, Sarah, of 41 years, who's here tonight, and for our 4 sons. Our oldest son is a 10-year Marine Corps officer combat pilot. Our 3rd son is a lieutenant commander in the Navy. And then we have 2 bankers. I'd also like to share my respect for my opponent, for his family, and for his career. To hit the ground running on day one, I think that a successful treasurer candidate needs the broad, deep, and specific education, credentials, experience, and existing relationships that I bring to the table and offer you for this office. My 2 main priorities, in addition to executing the duties of the treasurer within state statute and county ordinances, are return on investment to increase the interest earned on county savings by $2 million more each year. And number 2, to serve as a taxpayer's advocate by providing accurate financial information to taxpayers and the board.
Thank you. Candidate Pripsich.
Thank you. It's Pripsich for anyone scoring at home. Good evening. I'm Jeff Pripsich, Democratic candidate for Kane County Treasurer. I'm a 23-year resident of Kane County and share a home in North Aurora with my wife Cindy and my daughter Hannah. I'm running for treasurer to breathe new life into this office and to improve the overall customer service experience for Kane County taxpayers. I have embraced the volunteer spirit throughout my personal and professional life and know what it takes to be a true public servant. My campaign platform is based on 3 key components: accountability, experience, and integrity. As treasurer, I will ensure that everyone in the treasurer's office is held accountable to themselves, accountable to me, and most importantly, accountable to the citizens of Kane County. I have over 37 years of corporate accounting and a private sector experience, 27 of which has been in management. For the past 10 years, I've managed a staff of 10 working for a major sand and mineral production company with sales in excess of $1 billion. And finally, your treasurer needs to be honest and transparent and have no hidden or self-serving agenda. I have one agenda: to serve the citizens of Kane County and to serve them well by combining my experience and team-focused management style to strengthen the treasurer's office and to collaborate with the other offices to best serve Kane County. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question will begin with you, Candidate Pripsich. The question is this: Illinois law limits the type of investments a government official can make using public funds. How would you invest Kane County monies differently from the way they are currently invested?
I would, at the start of day one, there is a team that's been in place working under the former treasurer, Mr. Rickard, who held the position for 22 years. There is an investment strategy and policy that's been in place that has served the county well. Mr. Kilborn, who was appointed to replace Mr. Rickard, he has essentially taken that policy and continues to work with it. And ultimately, I would lean very heavily on the team that's in place that works with the local banks and the investment strategists to ensure that everything is being handled and processed with everything that is working correctly, massage it to make sure it's returning things, but also at the same time staying within the 3 important credentials of safety, liquidity, and performance. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lawson?
Thank you very much. Within the Illinois state statutes and Kane County financial policy guidelines, my promise to you is that I'll earn for county taxpayers an extra $2 million more of interest income per year. We have $250 million in reserves, and they represent the taxpayers' life savings. Up until April of this year, the county's current administration was earning approximately only 1/2 of 1 penny per year interest from the bankers. I am running to correct this deficiency. It's totally unacceptable.
It's only the first and easiest step to know what to do in our current situation, even more important to know how to do it and who to ask for help. We need to open the books and ask for outside help. Based on my experience and performance as a successful small business, tax accountant, certified public accountant, service in the Illinois State Senate, and the King County Board Chairman, Gwen Henry, the 16-year distinguished DuPage County Treasurer, invited me to participate in the evaluation and selection of the process for her investment advisors over DuPage County in 2002.
Thank you. Candidate Lausen, the next question will begin with you. The question is, what would you want to change as treasurer and why?
Well, it's certainly two things. First is that return on investment. I hope I'm not too much of a broken record, but I do want to make sure that I impart those two messages. You're going to be paying one of the two of us $100,000 a year. My promise to you is a 20 times return per year on that investment of $100,000 a year. Again, the amount of interest income now being earned is approximately 1.5%. And so the answer to the question is first priority, other than the statutory and county ordinance guidelines, is to increase that earnings. The 6-month T-bill rate is now about 3.6 or 3.7, so twice as much as we're earning on our savings. So, and then the second piece of it, and we won't have time right now, but it's accurate information to taxpayers and the board.
Thank you. Candidate Pripasich?
If you could please read the question one more time.
Sure. What would you want to change as treasurer and why?
All right, based on my following of the monthly finance and budget meetings that I've been attending in person and via Zoom, I'm hearing what the resolutions are that are being presented and how the board is discussing and reviewing what makes sense and what needs to be improved on. And one of the biggest complaints that has come across and has gone straight to the lady chair's position is the overall customer service experience. I think it's really important that the taxpayers understand what we're doing with property tax dollars, how they're being distributed, and the investment arena needs to be transparent so they know that everything is being handled safely and with liquidity and performing at the highest level. And ultimately, when you've got a staff that understands that the taxpayers need to have a thorough and clear understanding that's user-friendly as to all these things that affect their lives, the customer service experience is going to be improved on, and that's one of the top priorities for me.
Thank you. Candidate Pripasich, this question will start with you. Does the county treasurer have authority or power to regulate other county governmental bodies, cities, school districts, etc., in how they levy and spend tax money? I'll read one more time. Does the county treasurer have authority or power to regulate other county governmental bodies, such as cities, school districts, etc., in how they levy and spend their tax money?
I'm going to suggest that the answer to that is no. There are committees that determine what services and suppliers are paid, and those funds are regulated as to how and when they're distributed. The tax dollars, it's very clear in the description of the duties of the treasurer as to who gets paid and what percentages get paid. And likewise, there is limited funds within the control of the board that determines what needs to be spent and what needs to be invested. And those directives all come into the office of the treasurer. He is truly the steward of county revenues to ensure they're invested safely and with liquidity, but also paying down any kind of services that are dictated by the committees that are in place.
Thank you. Candidate Lausen?
The short answer to the question is no. The role of the treasurer is to collect funds from taxpayers and then to distribute funds to the various taxing organizations. So one of the things that becomes very important to board members and taxpayers is that we provide accurate information. One of the things that an elected treasurer can do rather than an appointed treasurer or an appointed chief financial officer is to provide this type of information. During my time in the Illinois State Senate, I served on the Senate Revenue Committee for 20 years and the Appropriations Committee. To know what happens with the various taxes is very important. For instance, there was a lot of discussion, and you should go to take a look at the recordings of the Finance Committee, the Executive Committee, and board meetings for the last year and a half. And it's very illuminating about the need for experience in the Treasurer's Office. The sales tax...
Sorry. We'll have the next question. We'll start with you, Candidate Lausen. And I'm going to use a moderator's ability to extend the answers for your questions to 1 minute and 30 seconds, gentlemen. It seems like you both have a lot of detail that perhaps can't be handled in 1 minute responses. So you now have 1 minute, 30 seconds. And the next question, starting with Candidate Lausen. State statutes establish the procedure to collect back taxes on real estate. Does the county treasurer have authority to deviate from these procedures?
Again, the short answer to that question is no. There's a tax sale that occurs either twice a year or once a year. There's an initiative by Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas where she is working on improving on that within the state statutes. I think that that's a healthy kind of discipline to constantly improve. But the short answer to your question is no.
Candidate Pripasich?
I would agree that the short answer is definitely no. And again, as I stated earlier, that there are very, very specific duties that are outlined from the Office of Treasurer, and ultimately is to submit the property tax bills, to collect those monies, and to distribute them according to the governing bodies that are part of Illinois state statutes. And any other spending opportunities are presented by the committees that are approving those. And ultimately, again, to answer the question in a short order, the treasurer does not have that authority.
So I gave you more time and then asked a question. Mr. Pripasich, Candidate Pripasich, this question will start with you. Do you see the stagnant tax rates in the county for the past decade as positive or negative, and why? You have 90 seconds.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, truthfully. As a homeowner and a property taxpayer myself for the last 23 years in Kane County, yes, it's nice to see that the tax rates are stable, and but ultimately, how sustainable is that? When we want to improve services, we want to maintain good employees, we want to ensure that they are provided with a competitive salary and good benefits. At the end of the day, if we don't have new revenue streams, what are our options truly? And so ultimately, you look back at the 10 years that things have maintained the stability, and when there's a suggestion that after 10 years it's time to bump up the property tax rate, and the average homeowner is going to be paying a very, very modest sum that someone compared to the cost of a pizza or a 3-martini lunch, I think it's a reasonable suggestion, and that I don't believe it's something that the taxpayers would object to, considering how much time has gone by.
Thank you. Candidate Lausen?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think that this is a very important question. I have spent decades listening to complaints from the people who I work for about the property taxes. In the old days, people used to call up, and I'd be flooded with those questions. Interesting that, especially in seniors, the older, the fellas would get on the phone and they'd rip me a new one. They'd give me the what for, and I understood very clearly that they were paying more than they could afford. The senior women, they'd get on the phone and they'd cry because they'd say, I can't live in this home anymore. These days, we don't get many calls anymore. Do you know what people do? They just leave. And so 114,000 people have left Illinois net in the last year. And so we, before I came in, now is that 30 seconds with a minute and 30 seconds? Okay, thank you so much. We're very good at your job. But there was a 50% increase in the property tax levy in the 7 years before I was chairman. And so it is a very positive thing that we froze the property tax levy, we paid down the public debt 70%, we met all of our obligations as far as services, and fully funded the public pension obligation at 98%.
Thank you. Start the next question with you, Candidate Lausen. What is your position on tuition reimbursement for employees? How should it be handled?
That policy has recently been changed by the Human Services Committee, and I believe that certainly is a decision that's to be made by the board members, the 24 board members. It began, the process of adjusting that policy began in the Human Services Committee, advanced through executive, and then onto the full board, and so they have recently changed that.
Thank you. Candidate Pripasich?
Well, if in fact there is a legitimate need for a specific role, that there is education that's required, as someone who is an employee of King County government, I think there needs to be really clear guidelines as to just what is laid out and what's involved with the tuition reimbursement. But again, a decision can't possibly come from the Treasurer's office, but it's something that's worth consideration depending on what committee will be discussing that and making a decision on that. But I think it has to be really, really clear guidelines as to who the individual is, what the relationship is with this individual, and what their role is as an employee of King County government.
Thank you. Candidate Pripasich, we have kind of a question of choice for you for our next question. So what I'm going to ask is, what question do you wish the audience here had asked, and how would you answer that question? I'll give you 30 seconds to think about that.
No, I'm going to just go with what comes to my mind. As somebody who has got 37 years of corporate private sector accounting experience, how is it that I decided to run for King County Treasurer? And my answer is, I didn't seek this out, I was invited to run. And as a longtime resident of King County, and an interest in being a true public servant, that is my heart and soul, why I'm running, to couple my experience and to just make a difference in King County.
Candidate Lausen, what question do you wish I had asked you that I didn't ask, and how would you answer it?
First of all, I think you've done a magnificent job. So, no question, I think that you're covering the waterfront. I think that one of the things that needs to be emphasized is a comparison. You're hiring one of the two of us, and I have great respect for Jeff. I think that what I bring to the table is that my education and certification have been focused from the very beginning on accounting, finance, and management as an honors graduate cum laude from Duke University, a successful applicant through a 3-day certified public accountant CPA examination by the University of Illinois, and then an MBA from Harvard Business School. I learned the true meaning of customer and constituent service under competitive circumstances during the 10 years of private industry experience starting an accounting and tax firm from scratch with my wife Sarah. We grew that to where we were serving 200 monthly small business clients and then successfully selling it. During the 8 years that you elected me to serve you as County Board Chairman and Chief Administrator, we proved that together we could meet all the service and financial obligations without asking for more. So I bring the unique background of knowing the intricacies of the legislative process and state and federal statutes from the 20 years in the Illinois State Senate. And I helped pass legislation that made the Treasury function more productive for county treasurers.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much. That was your last question, and a doozy at that. So I would like to give you 1 minute to make any additional closing comments that you'd like to make for this evening's audience. Candidate Lawson, we'll start with you.
It's all right, I've been called worse.
Lawson.
My name is Chris Lawson, I'm running for county treasurer. So if I could start the minute, here, okay, thank you. You know, if everything in Kane County finances was going well, you wouldn't need me. In fact, I wouldn't be running. But things are not going well by a lot. Return on savings of ½ penny per year is not what it should be. Accurate information is not getting to taxpayers and board members. Hundreds of thousands of dollars is being squandered in wasteful spending. I respect banks and bankers, but I agree with the t-shirt. Bankers are not your friends. My job is to negotiate with them on your behalf. So in just the past 2 years, unfortunately, it is a true statement that all levels of government, local, county, state, and federal government are in control of Democrats. Unfortunately, and I appeal to Democrats and to Republicans and to independents, but there is a financial mess with the inflation that's been created, and you need to bring forward people who have experience and credentials to serve you.
Thank you. Candidate Pripasich?
My opponent has stated that on day one, he is prepared to employ an investment strategy that will add an additional $1 to $2 million in revenues for Kane County. But this strategy was presented to both former treasurer and his appointed replacement about 1.5 years ago, and both of these gentlemen flatly rejected the strategy as being too aggressive, too high risk, and not a good fit for Kane County. Now, my opponent has a long list of credentials, including several degrees and many years in elected office. With all due respect, the Office of Treasurer does not require someone with a CPA or MBA to be a qualified candidate. The most qualified candidate needs to have accounting experience, a thorough understanding of financial statements and the investment process, and importantly, strong interpersonal skills. As your next treasurer, I will work with the experienced team to build upon the processes that are currently in place, and together we'll ensure that Kane County taxpayers have user-friendly transparency as to how their property tax dollars are being distributed and how county revenues are being invested as part of sound fiscal management. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking the candidates for this. I'd also like you to join me in thanking Batavia Access television personnel who have been here tonight recording us, Andrew Van Meter and Audrey Karp. As I said before, our democracy thrives when all of us are engaged. Attending or watching a candidate forum is an excellent way to be empowered to join discussions on local issues and to make your voice heard on Election Day. We hope that each and every one of you will vote and inspire your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Information on how to vote and when to vote and where to vote can be found on the IllinoisVoterGuide.com or your Central King County League of Women Voters website or your local county election committee website. Thank you to the League and thank you to all of you for spending your evening with us. Good night.